Hey,
Good morning.
where are you?
I am in Dallas, Texas in my hotel room. Or I
You
should say
got,
Plano.
you gotta fill me in, man. You are just all over the place. I don't even know what you're doing. This is so fun.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, and right now it's like I woke up this morning, got ready, and now my phone is shutting off and on, so I can't get to anything on my phone. So it's kind of crazy. So I'm like, I can't get to even send different messages on my phone to people. So now I can't download it onto my computer because it sends a verification code to my phone. I'm like, yeah, well, what do you do?
That must mean you have to take a break or something. I don't know.
Something like that.
Okay,
How have
so
you? Go ahead.
before we start, I'll just tell you how it's going to go because I know you don't have a lot of time, but I know we could talk for days. So I just want to respect your time, but also catch up a little bit.
Yep.
So we'll talk about other stuff afterwards so that I can next week, so I can continue to just keep up with you. First of all, I am so proud of you. I can't even stand it. I've known you for so long, and it's been so fun to watch from a distance and just see you bloom and blossom and be an example. And I just need to get that out right up front because you are amazing. And I don't know the struggles. I don't know what all of that means, but I do know what it looks like on the outside to those of us who are watching you. So thank you for being that.
Thank you, honey. I appreciate it.
Amazing, amazing. So the one question that everybody asks me is how to say Prussia.
Prussia.
Because it's so, I knew that, but I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I've been saying it wrong all these years.
The reality is it got changed. So initially it was Prussia, like the country, and it was spelt like the country. And then it got changed through the time where they added an additional S on. So then my grandma, their family changed it to Prussia. So,
Okay. So
yeah, there it is.
Nice. So I have your bio. I have stuff. What this is all about, how we do this is just a really fun conversation, very conversational. Get Real is the platform, and I'm guessing you know that. It's a radical, energized, authentic, and learning focused. We have no trouble, you and I, being real. I mean, obviously you are, that's your middle name. And so it's just a conversation. I have your bio, I have your stuff. I'll kind of introduce you that way. And then we're just gonna riff.
No, that sounds good. Are you tagging me on Facebook? Are we going live?
We can go. Would you like to go live? Because I would love to go live. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm totally fine with that. And if you want to tag my athlete page, that has more followers than that for your podcast.
Okay. What's your athlete page?
It's Mariah MPX Prussia.
Okay.
And it's the one that has an athlete, like I'm jumping over a hurdle. That's the image that'll pop up.
So when I do that, right now, when I tag, how do I do that? Because I'm going to go live. I've never done it. I've gone live on Facebook here, but then how do I tag when it's happening? Do I do that before I start?
You put it right in the status before you start.
Okay. I'm just getting to that page. Continue. Because I've done this a long time before, but now when they changed all of the back office of Facebook, I've never done it since.
Yeah, I think that's what I did one time when I did a domestic violence one. Is I tagged before and then I posted.
Okay, so I'm
going
live stream Zoom meeting to Facebook Live, Jody's meeting room, intro description. I've never done a meeting room. This is kind of cool. Okay, personal meeting room. Join me for this conversation with Mariah Prussia. Choose where to post it on my timeline. Who should see this public? And then it says go live, but I just tag you in my description.
I believe so. I think you just tag me right in your description.
So at Mariah NPX. So I'm just tagging your at Mariah.
Yep.
Okay.
I believe so. Yep.
Let's try this.
Hey, it's all good.
Okay, I'm just gonna go live, preparing to live stream the meeting. And then what I do for the podcast is come back later and edit the audio.
It's all good. So now we're actually live.
The second done, redirecting. So I'll tell you in a audio. We are live.
So now we're actually live.
Second done, redirecting. So when we're live, it's echoey. We are live.
Yeah, I hear that. So you can shut it off if you want.
Hang on a second. So when we're live, it's echoey. We are
Yeah,
live.
I hear that.
Let me just take off the audio and we should be good.
Here we go.
So Mariah, how the heck are you? It's been such a long time since I've seen you in real life, but I've known you for such a long time.
Well, you know, Jody, it's crazy on when we look back
So
to
much
the
fun. And
Lady
you know what?
Wellness
Now I
days.
can't hear you because I shut off my audio. So hang on.
It's crazy on when we look back
So
to
much
the
fun.
Lady
And you know what?
Wellness
Now I
days.
can't hear you because I shut off my audio. So hang on.
It's crazy on when we look back to the
So I'm
Lady
gonna
Wellness days.
figure out
Shut
how
off
to
the
do
bass
this
mic.
before we go.
It's crazy on when we look back to the Lady Wellness days.
Figure out
Shut off
how
the
to do
bass
this
mic.
before we go.
It's crazy.
Okay, I think we're good.
Are we good now?
Yep, we're good now. Yay! Okay.
You know, it's okay because my phone is acting up. So why not have the computer act up this morning? It's like spirits are clearing stuff out.
They are. I love that. So everybody, we're going live. At the same time, I'm recording for my podcast, and this is the first time I've done this way because I want you all to participate. And so if you're watching this live, probably not later because we won't be able to respond later. But if you're watching us, please feel free to put comments in the chat. I am blessed this morning to be joined by my friend for many years, Mariah Prussia, who, if you don't know her, you need to know her. And I need to learn some of the things that are new with you too, Mariah, even though we've been friends for a long time. So we met, oh golly, a long time ago when we were both doing work at Lady Wellness. Is that right? Is that how you remember it?
Back in 2003, 2002, I want to say, give or take. That's aging us, Jody.
Well, and I that's why I hesitate to do that. But then I go, well, that was only 5 years ago. Because in my life, that's how time goes.
Yeah, it goes quick. It goes quick.
Yeah. That was before, did you have kids then? I don't think you had kids then.
No, I think I might have been pregnant with Antonio. So yeah, it's crazy how life comes into full circle and how we meet people in different pieces of our life. And sometimes they're there for a short window of time. And then sometimes there's that re-entrance. And I learned a lot. You know, I was growing at that point and continue to grow as both of us do. And meeting you in my 20s, some of the verbiage that you were using, I wasn't familiar with. So I was at that young infancy phase of who am I? Where am I meant to go? And it's been a beautiful thing, and it's been a rocky road in life. And I think far too often we expect that we should instantly be a caterpillar where we have our wings. But we have to go through the different puzzle pieces of life. So we're not necessarily ready for flight. We have to go through those bumps in the road. And then during those bumps in the road, all of the little pieces start to build our wings. And then it gets to the point where we're ready to take flight.
Such a good analogy. And we can come back to that in a second. Before we get too far, Mariah, I want to tell people who you are. If you don't know who I'm talking to this morning, this is Mariah Prussia, and she has a huge bio. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her. She's president and owner of MPX Fitness. She's the 2020 North Dakota Mother of the Year. She's a motivational speaker. She's an ACE certified personal trainer. Her platform is called Define the Fight. We're going to learn more about that. She's a nutrition coach. She has do you still have the radio show?
I don't. I have some other things in the pipeline.
Okay, sounds good. She used to have a radio show though every Wednesday morning. She's a freelance writer. She's a Reiki practitioner. She partners or has partnered with the North Dakota Police Department youth programs, professional boxer, all kinds of things. A mom of two, a single mom of two. And Mariah, there's just something about you. There's a fight in you that I've known since I've seen you or met you, but there's just more to it than a fight against. I sense in you there's a stand for a lot of things as well. And I'd love you to tell us just about that and then about your journey.
So the fight, right? We look at fight as a negative connotation because yes, I've fought in a cage. Yes, I've fought in the ring. But the reality is every single person in this life is a fighter. And it's not always about fighting against, it's fighting for. So when we flip the script on what does that mean, it's different. So define the fight came into play is, what is that fight? So is it healing and working through past trauma? Is it weight loss? Is it health, wellness? Is it personal? Is it professional? What is that fight? And our fight changes. Far too often we think that our fight is always the same. If it's always the same, then it means we're not taking the actions or the steps to move forward and to heal, to grow from. So that's really where Define the Fight comes. And, I've had a lot of different things that have happened in my life, but I don't allow those traumas to have ownership in who I am. So if I'm still revisiting things from 20 some years ago, and I still have pain towards it, then I haven't healed from it. Now, don't get me wrong, different resonance come into play, right? We can't heal from everything all in one moment. We are given what we can handle in that place and time. So during COVID, I had a couple small pieces that came in, and I'm like, okay, what is this? Now I need to work through these pieces. So no matter where you're at in your life, you always have choices. And that's really what it comes down to. We can live in that pain, or we can work through that pain, and it's not easy. So diving into those emotional trenches of life suck. I'm going to be honest with you. Physical pain I can handle all day long. Emotional pain, yes, but it's not the same. It's different. It is a whole different opponent that you're facing, but it's the opponent that it's worth facing the most, because then you start seeing and revealing more pieces of yourself through that healing process.
Wow. I see the analogies all over the place. I mean, building the muscles, we talk about building your physical muscles for sure, but what you're talking about now is building those emotional and spiritual and psychological muscles. And I guess your muscles don't really get tested until you have a trial or something you need to test them with. And that's what I hear you saying.
Well, there was a quote that I learned in the last couple of years that I really like and that I utilize a lot when I'm speaking or around individuals. You have to win the battle in your mind before you step foot on the battlefield. Because if you are trying to go into the gym and start a new workout program, or it's New Year's resolutions, right? If you haven't worked on the mind piece, how do you expect to stay consistent and commit to the physical piece? Your mind runs your body. And that's really what it comes down to, is we have roadblocks, we have setbacks, but what is that thing that is stopping you from being consistent and being committed to bettering yourself? What is it?
Fight it. I mean, that's where I hear the fight come in, because that's how you are to me. That's how I've known you to be forever. Before you had this platform, before you had anything, you had that in you. And I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about where that came from. You were an athlete in high school, 3-sport athlete. Tell us more about your upbringing.
I'm very grateful. My parents are amazing individuals, where I had to learn how to fight at a young age. So when I was 5, I still remember my mom was in a car accident where she was very lucky to survive, and grateful. So that was the very first imprint for me of fighting. My mom had 30% brain damage and then reverted back to a child because of the injury. So we grew up very quickly. I have 2 older sisters. We're two years apart, 2 and 4, but ages 5, 7, and 9. Now we're on the farm. We're doing the dishes every single night. We're feeding the cattle at a very young age, so in the morning and at night, because my dad during the week was traveling for construction. So my grandma would stay with us until my mom healed, and thankfully she's full recovery. But that was really where the fight started. And then it continued on, where the work ethic was implemented a lot by my dad. I could see him grind. I was like my dad's little boy that he never had, working on, teaching me how to change oil, work on the farm, all of those different things. And, looking through all of life, like in my freshman year of college, that knocked me on my butt. It really did. What most people don't know is I pretty much failed out of college my first year. I went to school. I had newfound freedom, where it's like, hey, classes are optional. I had never really drank in high school, so it was a new life. But I learned very quickly after taking a year off that the friends that I thought were my friends weren't really my friends. They were just going through the fun, right? And I was joining them. So then I had to make a decision. What is that decision? Well, I wanted more for myself. And working at a nursing home as a CNA, coaching during that year off, I learned a lot about life and how short and how valuable it really is. And taking those pieces from the individuals in the nursing home on what was important for them and listening to their life. And it was amazing on what we can learn from our older generation and how we can implement that into our lives and how it's impactful on how we treat people in respect, being grateful, being humble, because one day, we're not going to be walking on our own 2 feet like we are right now. We may have limitations as we age, physically, not necessarily mentally, but yes, mentally comes in with dementia, so on and so forth. But that's really, I want to say those pieces were really where the fight started. And then clearly the older I got, different things came into play.
So I love that analogy of being 19, 18 years old and working with elderly people and seeing that early. That tells me that a lot of things that get planted in our lives can definitely make a difference forever, but can also be shifted, can be used for the fight to define us as we go. I don't think we're stuck ever in anything that happened to us, because we have the ability to change it to happen for us. And that kind of leads me into the next phase of your life, the things that I know about you. What would you say was the next turning point for you?
Having my oldest, or my firstborn, Antonio, it was very humbling to me. It also, as a personal trainer, it was another form of humility. With pregnancy, you aren't able to control your weight. So that was a whole new facet for me as I'm getting further along in my pregnancy. I'm finding hail damage in certain spots on my legs that I never, right? It's our body changes. So it was humbling, where I knew that I had to put on weight for a pregnancy. But at the same point, I wasn't comfortable in that spot because it was new to me. So after having Antonio and, losing weight and getting back into the swing of things, it was an aha moment for me. Mariah, when you were first personal training, the first 4 years, it was all about what you knew, and you wanted to push people to the grindstone, like, hey, I'm going to make you sore. It's shifted my mentality to, right, not everybody's an athlete. So now it's adjusting and accommodating and really looking at what are the needs of those people, and then diving more into the mindset where that weight gain was different. So now I looked at it from a client's perspective of, they're struggling with weight gain, but they're not pregnant. So what is the thing? What is that it to help shift that, so I can connect, but so then they can connect in their mind on overcoming, whether it's that addiction to food or the excuses, right? Because there are excuses that come up. Time, I don't have time. Let's talk about time, right? So that was a big piece. And I knew at that point when I had Antonio, I wanted something more for myself. And that's when I opened the gym, my own gym, Extreme Measures, at that point, is because I wanted to have the flexibility and the opportunity to be at all of my kids' events. I wanted to have that flexibility, but little did I know, when you open your own business, it's more of a time commitment, but I still had the ability to shift and make things happen so I could be there for them.
Yeah, I love I'm thinking back to what you said about shifting your awareness to the client's perspective. And I think having people get into the grind is what you think at some point in your life. It's all about the grind. It's all about the push. And when you go through something that causes you to go, wait a second, maybe there's another way to think of this, personally, you then see it differently. And what you did, both as a personal trainer and a business owner, it sounds like allowed you to go, okay, wait a second, there might be another way to think about this. And what I love about your story and your transformation from the outside as I watch you is that you actually did shift. It wasn't just keep the grind going because the grind has got to work. And some people do that. They keep doing what they kept doing, expecting different results, which we know is insanity. You didn't. You actually talked earlier about the cocoon and the butterfly. You allow, this is again my observation, so tell me if I'm wrong, but you allow what needs to transform, and then you take whatever you have and say, okay, next.
Mhm.
Is that?
Yeah. Well, and it's ego. It's really what it comes down to is ego. So we do what we do because we know what we know, and it makes us feel confident and comfortable in our own skin. So that's some reason why people don't change, is because they're stuck in the ego. Now, do I have ego? Yeah, everybody has ego. But I can say at this point in my life, especially in the last 2 years, I've seen a major shift in the ability to control, and also reflect on, if I start speaking to you, Jody, all of a sudden I will catch a word like, okay, was that spoken out of ego, or was that spoken out of compassion and you get what I'm saying? So I was helping with a commercial, and I was helping one of the females work on her punches, elbows, so on and so forth. But at one point I was observing from the side, and this was just this past year. She had her thumb on the inside, right, when she was throwing a punch, when it should be on the outside. So they wanted my feedback, insight, and I said, okay. I said, her thumb is in the wrong spot. It needs to be on the outside. After I said that, I'm like, Mariah, that came off wrong. Why would I say that that was wrong? Instead of, I could have said, could you have her shift her thumb on the outside? So I was catching myself where individuals interpret things, especially now, we're hypersensitive on words right now. It's over the top. It's ridiculous. But for me, my reflection was, I could have worded that better, because another individual could have put up their defensive walls and could have been like, wow, she just, so that was just key pieces like that. So the last couple of years, it's reflecting, right? It's OODA loop. It's observe, orient, decide, take action, whether that is with our words or that's with our physical actions moving forward.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. And I love that you brought up the OODA loop, because I talk about that a lot. The observation, by the way, if you didn't catch that, she did that really fast. OODA is observe, orient, decide, act. And I love that you said that, because once you act, that doesn't mean that's the end.
Right.
It goes back to observe. And I that came from a fighter pilot. Where did you learn about OODA?
The SEALs.
Yeah.
The Navy SEALs. Yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I worked with them with different programming throughout all of last year, and it's great. We continue to do different things with them, and the mindset is really, my mindset has really grown. I've done a lot of shadow work, a lot of different working on my emotional EQ and helping others with that. So I went and did a couple of different crucibles. So crucibles, if you have ever done a boot camp, imagine that times 100% harder, right? So the very first one I did was in March of 2021, where it was 12 hours. So during the 12 hours, you have a rucksack, which is about 40 pounds that you have on your back. It was myself and 30 men that I was with for this 12-hour crucible. And with fighting, you have the ability to like smell blood. I just want to put it that way, where you can tell if somebody's going to mentally break. So before we even started, I knew there was people that were going to mentally break just by looking at them. And we started our couple-mile jog to get to where we were going to be starting, and that was our warm-up. So we get there, we're in the grinder. So at this point, we're doing push-ups, burpees, all of that fun stuff while getting hosed down, drenched with water. It was 30 degrees. It was overcast in California in the mountains, and diving in and out of ice baths head first over and over and over again. So I have never been so cold in my life. Now, you guys know I live in Fargo, North Dakota. So let's be honest, we know cold. This was a whole different cold, and being cold for 12 hours, being drenched the entire time. So anytime that we started to dry, we went back into the ice bath. So shaking and learning how to control your shivering through your breath. We did the Murph. We were hiking up and down the mountains, carrying people on stretchers. But I want to say the most impactful piece out of all of the different grind was the mental. And one of the SEALs had made a comment, we're in line, everybody's doing the same thing. And, you know, at this point, we're holding sandbags above our head. We had to hold it for X amount of minutes. And you could see people faltering, including myself, right? I'm like, okay, no, you got to stay strong. And he said, if you are focusing on your own pain, you are not focusing on your team, you're focusing on your ego. You need to step out of your ego. Every single person is experiencing the same pain as you are. You need to start stepping into the team and helping your team, which then means going over and helping and assist at the same point. So they really drilled in the importance of teamwork. And when your body is under physical stress, that's when the mental really has to start coming into play. And if it doesn't, that's usually where you see people fall out or bail, right? Or tap out. But yeah, it was huge. So I did that one, and then did another one for Veterans Day, where they asked if I would like to come out and help raise awareness for transitioning veterans back into civilian life through mental health and all of those key pieces. But then I also did the sheepdog training, which we're in current times right now. The world is uncertain. I think everybody can agree that there's so much uncertainty that the sheepdog training is to help prepare you for natural disasters, terrorist attacks, self-defense, and to be able to protect your friends and family. So through that training, we learned more hand-to-hand combat, how to disarm, how to actually help individuals who have been wounded. How do you carry, how do you transport, how do you put on tourniquets? We also learned firearms, and I know not everybody is about firearms, but what it comes down to is everybody has different perspectives, and not everybody is going to go on a rampage. So learning the safety of that, and, you know, moving and shooting targets, so on and so forth. So very, very empowering. I learned a lot, and yeah, I'm grateful for that experience. That helped me evolve immensely. And then I have more things that I've had, that I want to add into the caliber on protection. I feel that we protect ourselves, or we train ourselves, or get trained on our professional life, right? We get trained in for a position. We get trained in different other areas, but why aren't we training for life skills?
Yeah, good point. All of that is amazing. And there's a missing piece here. All of a sudden you have a baby and you have a gym, and now you're with the SEALs. What do we miss?
in between the mix. I tell you what, Jody, one thing that I know about myself is I change very quickly, right? I grow very quickly, and it's like, I always want growth. And once I've hit this piece of growth, then I'm moving on to the next, to the next, to the next. And some people are like, Mariah, why don't you just sit still? I wasn't born to sit still. I know that. So, after having Antonio, having my gym, I clearly got into fighting in 2013, had Chase in 2011 before I started fighting. And he is another Spitfire. So I have two different energies of children. I have an entrepreneur mindset, and I have more of the, you're not going to mess with me mentality. So it's fun. It's fun. It's like WWE SmackDown every single night. But yeah, it's been great. The gym taught me a lot. Talk about a fight. You have ebbs and flows in business. Everybody thinks when you have a business that you have all of this this return on investment that's coming in. I had peaks and valleys. Mm-hmm. Before I had Jace, I was on assistance because I didn't have any other income coming in except for what I relied on that came through the gym. And, it was embarrassing. And that was another ego check where, what do I do? What do I need to do right now, Mariah? You need to check yourself. I remember going into social services hat pulled down, not wanting to be recognized, but I needed it.
Mhm.
I went back to work after I had Antonio 4 days after, because I worked strictly on commission.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing him to work with me. But when I opened my own gym, now it's like you have all these different overhead payments. You're paying your employees first, and whatever is left is that what you get to take in.
Mhm.
So that was a huge fight for me, but I learned a lot through that. So there was great times, there was not so great times. Through that, I found grace, I found growth, and I found humility again,
Mhm.
where I knew that God was preparing me for a bigger journey than where I currently was at. So you have to be humbled before you reach that certain point of, I'm there. And my significant other, I talk about the 5 mountains and, reaching towards the top of the mountains. But the reality is when you get to the top of the mountain, there's always another mountain to climb.
Yeah.
So, with Jace, he was an emergency C-section. I was on bed rest with him. So that fight was trying to keep him in as long as I could. So my water broke at 25 weeks. I was on hospital bed rest for 44 days. Thankfully, he was able to stay in womb until 31 weeks, 5 days. So that was crazy. It was after I had Jace, I was up to the hospital. I'd go back to work, come to the hospital, feed, go back to work, go back and feed, pick up Antonio. We'd go back to the hospital for 47 days. But before that, it provided an opportunity for me to work on my business instead of in my business. But with that being said, there was huge struggles, financial struggles. I just hired somebody for sales who had only been trained in for 4 days. One of the gyms opened in Fargo, which was pulling some of our members. Now I'm paying personal trainers to train my clients, which is additional income that's not coming into the gym, but outsourcing, right, for payroll. And I remember sitting on my hospital bed and I was like, God, I don't know how I'm going to make my house payment.
Yeah.
And literally by the grace of God, later that day, my former roommate, who just passed, God bless her soul, her and her friend came in and they presented me a card, right? And when I opened up the card, she had just said, Mariah, we want to thank you for all the things that you've done for us at the gym, our growth, for being there, right? And being supportive. And on the inside was a check from Bell Bank, pay it forward, for $1,000, which covered my house payment a day before I needed to pay my house. So, it's like serendipity. It's all these different things where everything comes into play. And we have to keep our faith. And a lot of people have lost faith in the last 2 years. We've leaned so far into fear that we've stepped away from our faith and judgment and being a good person. So, there's such a divide. There's such a divide and divide. Okay, you voted left. You voted right. Who cares? Right? The reality is that is a choice that you made, vaccinated versus unvaccinated, state versus religion, all of these different things that have created animosity. And, when I look at not political, when I just look at life in general, when you look at divide and conquer, that's what's happening in the world right now. So how can we put our judgment, our ego aside and say, hold on, you know what? I care about you. I love you. And I understand that your choices are different than mine. But what I know is that when I'm on my deathbed, I know that you're going to be the person that's by my side. And we've pushed people away. And that saddens me. And it's really disheartening because, even like a close family member of mine was really upset with how I voted compared to her. And I just said, I don't like either candidate. I don't like either one of them. And I said, I can't put my faith in politics. I have to put my faith in God. I have to put faith in myself and what I can create in changes and choices. And I said, the fact that we vote differently is okay. It's okay. I said, there's different pieces that people vote for. It's not that necessarily that they're voting for that person, but if this person has certain aspects that I feel are beneficial or that I hold stake in, right? Then that's probably where I'm going to lean. And I have voted both.
Mhm.
I have voted left, I have voted right. But the reality is when people ask me what I am, I said I'm rational,
You're right.
right? So, sorry to go on a little rant, but I mean,
Oh, that's okay. This
I've
is
just,
real. This is what it
yeah,
is.
I just look at life right now and we've really, everybody's been knocked down,
Yeah.
but yet are we going to be the people that continue to kick people down by their choices? They're already down.
Yeah.
So are we trying to feel power from that?
Mm.
Because our ego needs power, right? Our ego needs to be right. And the more that we have to be right, the more that we are stoking our ego. And the goal is to control the ego.
Right.
And when we set that aside,
So we missed a little piece in there about being a single mother and whether or not you had support when you had your kids, because I'm thinking that a lot of your story came from the opposite of what you wished would have been there for you. Am I inferring anything that's not true?
I don't know if wish, because I really didn't know. I was just kind of allowing things to happen in life. I think we get stuck in this is how life should be, this picture. And I think the hardest birthday for me was when I was 25, because I was like, gosh, I should be married. I should have kids. I should have the job that I wanted. I'm working 3 jobs. I'm dating somebody, don't have kids. I mean, right. So that was hard for me. And then I kicked that to the curb and said, I don't want to be like everybody else's perception of what life should be. Single parenting, is it hard? 100%. There's good days, there's low days, there's learning days. And, I'm very grateful for my boys where we can have conversations, and sometimes we see eye to eye and sometimes we don't, but it's okay because they're in different phases of where I'm at and vice versa. So single parenting is tough. You're managing your professional schedule when you're driven and you want to become more and you want to reach and impact more people. And then you're also balancing the livelihood and the schedule of your children. And then sometimes you're extremely exhausted when you come home. So the cup isn't necessarily full. And they feel that. And it's like, okay, so hold on, I just need to take a step back and breathe, right? So it's trying to do it all on your own. It really is. But when I look at all of the different years, I can't see it doing it any other way than what I've done it, because I've grown in independence, confidence, self-esteem, maturity, humility, grace, all of these different things that, yes, I've had pieces of, but not to the extent of this. And when we dive into the turning point of where I'm at now, it's been a challenge, when you start getting on the road.
So you got to tell us about getting on the road, because this is the part I don't even know. I know something shifted, but I don't know exactly what it is. So what's that last one? Tell us more about that.
So one of my friends had sent me an email back in May at 11 o'clock at night. My phone pings. I'm like, why in the hell is she messaging me at 11 o'clock at night? So I look at it, it was a link and it was for an agency for personal training. I clicked on it. I'm like, well, I'm awake. I might as well fill it out. I'm not, because I'm not looking for anything, right? But I'll just do it. 2 days later, I get a call back from the agency to set up an additional interview. And she kind of did a quick phone interview there. In the meantime, I had 4 other interviews with the organization and the agency. And then I had to submit in a 5-minute long video of myself working out. They wanted to hear how I was in front of camera, so on and so forth. So that was all completed by the first week of June. And they had said that we'll get back to you. We'll let you know the next phase is an in-person audition if you are selected to move forward. I didn't receive anything until the middle of August. I got an email saying we'd love to have you fly out for an in-person audition. And that was in September. So I flew out in September,
Where was that?
and that was in Texas. It was in Texas. So there was 17 personal trainers from throughout the United States with all different backgrounds, diversity. And they had 3 different days of filming. And the people that I met with were very young. So I know I'm the oldest person. Okay, I'm just going to throw this out there. All of them are in their 20s and maybe 2 to 5 years of experience, where I've got 20 plus years of experience, right? So I'm like, okay, this could either be an advantage or a disadvantage, but either way, I didn't care, right? I didn't care. So we filmed, and the day that I filmed was the day that my grandma had passed away. So it was on September 9th, which is very significant to me because she was a strong female mentor in my life. And it wasn't at the time that she passed, but we went in for our initial meeting at the time that she passed. So she died on 9/9 at 9 on Grandparents' Day.
Oh, wow.
At age 102.
Wow.
So it was just everything lining up. So I did my audition, flew back, and they said they'd let us know in 3 weeks. Well, in 3 weeks, hadn't heard anything. I flew out for that sheepdog training. And when I got back from that sheepdog training, I'm like, you know what, Mariah, you need to put your house on the market. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to put my house on the market. It's a seller's market. You want to live on a farm, you want to have acreage, so on and so forth, just do it. So I set in my mind that by the following Wednesday, I was going to have the sign in my yard, and that I was going to have my house sold in 3 days. So by that next Wednesday, I had the sign in my yard. My house didn't sell in 3 days. It sold on the 4th day, but at 3 o'clock.
Wow.
So it was sold, closed on December 23rd. So in the meantime, I hadn't heard anything. And it was a blessing that I had, because I had so many different things on my plate. I was teaching at MSUM, balancing different pieces, you know, whatever I may or may not be. And I was speaking to one of my friends who created my logo out of California. And I'm going to backtrack for a second. The gym. So I met with the owner of Fit Elements on Tuesday and spoke about the fact that she was just made an agreement on selling the gym. So then the next day is when, a full week after I closed on my house, my friend had asked me, Mariah, have you heard anything from Texas? I said, no. I said, I actually went into the church, I said, on Monday. I kneeled and I prayed and I said, God, I said, I know there's a large battle for you ahead. And I said, I want you to know that we are with you and to work through us. I said, please keep all of my friends and family safe. And I said, whatever mission that you have for me, work through me so that I can reach and connect with humanity the best way that I possibly can. I said, take the wheel. You are in the driver's seat, take the wheel. So I was telling her this. And literally after I got a phone, 24 minutes later, I get an email from Oxfit saying, we apologize for the delay. Magic Johnson just did a huge push at our summit. We're ready now to hire on our trainers. Are you available to meet with our CEO tomorrow to discuss next steps? So the female that contacted me is Dak Prescott's fiance.
Oh, wow.
So I met with them, discussed different things, and then I signed an agreement with them the following week. So since then, what I'm doing is I'm filming. So I fly out to Texas every other week, film as much content as possible. So there's a variety of different equipment lines that are out there, right? So they've got on-demand trainers. So if you look at like Peloton, that's basically what I'm doing is for Oxfit. I'm an on-demand trainer. We're doing live classes, so on and so forth. And it was just a huge honor because I was the very first trainer that they onboarded.
Wow.
So I'm excited and great to work with different individuals. I look at it in fact as a win-win in regards to exchange of energy. I'm able to do what I'm currently doing with my brand, with speaking and self-defense and so on and so forth, where it's nice. Where at the end of each video, am able to brand and circulate back towards my handles. And then clearly we'll be doing the same. And the CEO was one of the individuals who helped create 5G. The other CEO is a amazing guy that I meet with today. He actually did the research for NASA on how astronauts' bone density is impacted when they're in space. So a genius, but so down to earth. So now it's an opportunity for me to also reach people through fitness, but now it's also a new platform for me to increase motivational speaking, mindset, and self-defense, where it's a whole new reach of people that I would have never been able to reach. So instead of strictly being in the Midwest, now I'll be able to reach throughout the United States. So I'm really, really excited. The team, like I said, is great. The production crew is absolutely amazing. So they do the production for shows on HGTV. They just hired a guy that I was speaking to as an executive producer who filmed the documentary on, or was part of the Tom Brady documentary. So it's huge. It's a huge opportunity for me. But like I said, I was so excited, but then to hear and see my mom and my kids are like, are you sure you want to fly this often? You know, all these different things, right? So highs, but then there's, you know, you adjust to, because then you're feeling the emotions of other people who are very important to you. So yeah, there's been challenges. I had the boys out here with me for about a week, so it was nice. We were at the Star, which is, you know, the practice field for the Cowboys. So we were outside on the turf where they let kids play, and it's been huge. Huge opportunities to write. They asked me the same day, hey, we've got a deadline by this time, Mariah. Are you able to write this article and then also this article? I'm like, sure, let's do it. So, but it's fun. It's fun. I look at this as, you know, God's way of showing me that, Mariah, when you put your faith and lean into your faith and you ask not for, but ask how, then things can come into place, right? So sometimes when we pray, you know, whatever your religious background or beliefs are, I pray, you may or may not, and that's okay. We tend to ask for, I need this, I want this, instead of, God, show me. How do you want to utilize me as a vessel? Because we're only here for one life. And I know that my mission is larger than myself. And I know that I want to create a positive ripple effect of change in the masses, which requires being on a larger platform, not so that I can be in the light, but so that I can share the light. And that's really what it comes down to is with that. And, you know, intuition, Jody, I've been working a lot with Reiki and intuition, and I had a mentor that I was working with the past couple of weeks. So a lot of people don't understand or know, because I don't highlight it a lot. You know, there's a lot of people that are strictly in energy work and intuition, but intuitively, a lot of different things have become stronger. And she did different exercises with me for like mediums and to have different abilities that I'm tapping deeper and deeper into. And that's really what it's about, is how can we turn the lights on of other people, have them tap into their spiritual side too, their intuition, instead of just feeling the hair on your arms stand up. There's a deeper level of intuition. And for intuition, mine really didn't start coming into play until I recognized the trauma that I needed to work through. And when I started to release that pain, that anger, those different feelings that came with it, it's like all of a sudden these doors and windows that were sealed so tightly started to open. And different people started to come into my life. I started to see different things. And, you know, for me personally, the last couple of years, I've been able to, I met my twin flame, who he has helped me look at myself also in, it's like mirror images of each other for growth, and to have a communication level that is so strong where we can talk about things that most people don't, and different emotions and things of that person's intention just doesn't seem right. And we can explain those things. And you know what, you're right. I agree with you. So I just need to cut that cord because my love for you is more important than this person over here and whatever their intentions may or may not be. This is causing certain things for you, or vice versa. These are causing certain things for me. So to have that mutual respect and love and understanding really has been huge. So moving forward, I'm in the best spot in my life right now, and the best is only yet to come. And I'm grateful for all of the different people that have supported me along the way and continue to support me. And, you know, I've had friends that, you know, whether they've cut me off or I've cut them off, it all depends on energy, right? And I gravitate towards high frequency and victors, you know, I have people that come to me where they have struggles and I want to help them. And I'll help and give different suggestions and listen. But then it also comes to a point where if you're feeding energy and an individual isn't taking action, then at that point, sometimes you have to release that lifeline or that energy that is given. Because what it does is it prevents you from moving forward and helping other people who are really ready to take that next step.
You have just said a lot in a short amount of time, but I think if people are listening to this and feel drawn at all to anything you've said, I just want to notice that you are a super great teacher because you're a super great demonstrator. And I believe that to teach is to demonstrate. And so you teach every day by how you're being, not necessarily only what you're saying and what you're doing. So I love that you are being that, Mariah, and you're being the journey. You're not just talking about the journey, you're being the journey. So if anybody wants to learn more about you, I'm going to have you tell us your contact info, but then I also want to touch on your documentary because we haven't even talked about that. So let's get to the contact info and then we're going to talk about the documentary. So how can they find you?
You bet. So on Instagram, it's my first and my last name at Mariah Prussia. I have 2 different accounts on there, but I shifted from the fighting one more into creating a different one. So it's Mariah Prussia on Instagram. On Facebook, you can see it tagged clearly here. So that is my athlete or my professional page. But too, if you guys want to learn more about other pieces, it's either mariahprussia.com or definethefight.com.
Awesome. Now tell us about your documentary, which you guys, you are my only friend I know who has a documentary about yourself named after you. So just a short, quick, how did that come to be?
So it was crazy. I had felt it. We're going to tap into intuition really quick. I had felt that like something was coming to play at a date in mind. And on that exact date, an email came through from Jim Manny from the Fargo 4. He had contacted me to see if I would be interested in doing a personal interest story. So I said, sure, absolutely. We met, chatted about it, so on and so forth, started some of the filming, and then they shifted gears and asked if I would be interested in transitioning into a documentary. I'm like, absolutely. So over a 2-year time frame, 2.5-year time frame, they filmed my life, which was crazy, right? So I had a GoPro strapped to my chest. I had a drone above doing some of the training. You know, they were following my life. We're like, hey, Mariah, can we come at this? I'm like, sure, right? So it's a lot of juggling, literally balls in the air of like, okay, sure, come on over. But it was great. So it spoke about the different things that I worked through. So clearly I was in an unhealthy relationship where it wasn't in the best interest for where I was at, right? So, you know, when it comes to abuse, right, there's physical, there's emotional, there's financial, there's all of these different pieces. But when I look back, it talks about some of my journey clearly with working through. That was one of my fights. It was huge for me because I wanted to let people know that you view people as strong, but we never see the back end of the story of how did they evolve. So the documentary shows some of that, right? Because you can't capture all of that in like 63 minutes, right? So they condensed it down. But I'm very grateful for that. It was another healing piece for me. So when I would go back and watch, and then it had different resonance that came through. And, you know, looking at the documentary, looking at where I was at, I lived in fear for a while. I mean, I was stalked for a couple of years where every single night I'd be looking through my bedroom window. So when I look at that moment and I look at current times and where we're at, very fear stricken, I said, I lived in fear, and I don't want to say wasted, but I consumed part of my life in fear. And I swore to myself that I would never live in fear again. And, you know, when we hit in this pandemic, I'm like, I'm not fearful. I'm more fearful of not living, right? Living it with intention, living with like going out and doing and living life than being stuck. That, you know, so again, being, of course, you know, respectful of everybody's health, so on and so forth. But at the same point, I'm not going to live in fear because now I'm wasting, or I'm not growing, or I'm not living, and I'm not looking back at like creating memories and moments and growing. So COVID was a blessing in disguise because it provided me an opportunity to step back and say, where do I want to grow now? And I did.
Well,
so,
and I want to go back to how much you're demonstrating this journey through the fight. And I love that you talked about the distinction between the fight against and the fight for. And that has come across to those of us who have been cheering from afar, because you represent to me, don't take this the wrong way, but you represent the best in all of us. And I don't mean that to be an ego thing. I mean it to be a spirit thing, because the best in all of us is the spirit of all of us. And so when you can help us who are watching you define our own fight, define our own stand, you are cheering for us, even though you don't know you're cheering for us. And so it's really fun to witness your journey. And to everybody who's listening, it's there for all of us. It is. When we get real, and that means we have to get into our own stories, be radical about that, which means getting back to the root, get to the root of us, use our energy. That's the E. Be authentic in what you're learning, and then be learning focused. Everything's about being learning focused and being aware and open to the next phase. And Mariah, you do that so well. And I just want to thank you so much for taking some time to catch up with me, because really it's just a conversation between friends. And that's what we do.
Well, you know, I want to thank you, Jody, because you really helped start the journey for me, diving deeper and understanding communication with people. And when you're working in a business, or even outside of business, it's transferable. So you were one of the very first that helped in the journey, you know, along with, you know, I had Wes and Lori and everybody, you know, so it's great to see where you're at and how you're sharing love, how you're sharing positivity and passion. And we're always growing, and that's really the key. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity to be on with the Get Real, because you know what, let's get real. Gosh, we've got so much to do in this life, so much to do. And today is a new day. So if you struggled yesterday, it doesn't mean today is going to be a struggle. So get after it, go out there and define the fight. Let's get it. Come on.
Thank you, Mariah. Thank you so much for being with me. And everybody, please follow Mariah. I will make sure that all of her information is available to you. And as always, go be real. Talk to you again. Bye. Hang on, Mariah. I'm going to stop recording.